This video is not at all what I expected it to be. It started out as just a normal review video. It ended up with a water landing, lots of compressed air, and me having to take my drone apart down to the motherboard at least 5 times. This is the Mavic Air 2. Its sleek design, affordability, and quality make it one of the best in the game right now for people who are amateur quadcopter enthusiasts. And not only that, but this is the first drone that I have ever owned or flown. To preface, this video is from the perspective of a first-time drone buyer. When I was buying this drone, I looked up a lot of reviews, and a lot of them were, for example, of people comparing the Mavic Air 2 to other drones, which is valuable information, but if you've never bought a drone before, then you don't really understand the full capacity of what it means for one drone to be better to the other and how those benefit each other and all that. The other reviews I saw were from people who are experienced drone flyers, which again is an important perspective, but if you are getting your feet in the water for the first time when it comes to drone buying, then it can be kind of overwhelming, especially when you don't understand drones much to begin with and you're coming in for the first time. Not only is this going to be a normal review, but I'm also going to note a little bit about how I attempted to save a waterlogged drone. But before anything else, let's flash back to 2 weeks ago when I opened this drone for the first time. Okay, I was literally not planning on filming this until like 5 minutes ago, so that's why there's a mic in the way and vacuums, but it doesn't matter. This is just going to be part of the bigger video anyway, so. Oh gosh, I am terrified right now. Oh my gosh, I literally just threw a cardboard box on a C100. That was not, don't ever do that. That was not good. I'm like freaking out right now. I'm cutting away from me, not towards me. Don't have to cut towards yourself. It could end badly. Take this on. It smells like fresh. It smells like fresh leather. I'm gonna keep the camera angle here. I know it's not a good angle, but. Okay, first we have this little box right here. Some extra propellers, it looks like. Some more propellers. Start guide, user guide, safety guidelines. This bag, I did not buy the Fly More combo for this bag. I knew this bag would not be what I would be using for the most part. I got the Fly More combo because the extra batteries, the extra propellers, everything. Ooh. I'm gonna open the drone last. How about that? An extra battery. A second extra battery. This is the charging cord. Charging dock. There you go. It's pretty nice. I've been told by the internet not to charge all 3 on this in the initial charge, but once they've been charged for the first time, then to start charging them on this through one. I don't know how true that is, but I'm gonna do it anyway because that's what the internet said. Wow. Okay, so I've never held another controller, so this is why this is a very much first-timer drone flyer. I've never used a controller before, so I don't know how this compares to the other DJI controllers. Where my phone goes. Fits pretty nice. And finally, the drone itself. Here it is. Scary. This is it, no propellers. That's pretty much it. This is my first unboxing of it. I'm very excited. Now I guess to future Marcos. I don't know what this video is going to be about. Now let's flash forward from then to about a day afterwards when I set out on my first flight. The way that I set up everything and got it flying in the first place, I watched a great video. It's about half an hour from this guy named Jevin Dovey. I would highly recommend it. I'll put it in the description. As just he opened it up and showed what all the functions are going to look like, especially for a first-time flyer, specifically when it comes to setting it up for the first time. Now, getting it up in the air for the first time was super exciting, but as soon as I got it in the air, it was terrifying because you just don't have control over what it's doing. You have your controller and you're able to make it go up and down, but once you send it off, if anything malfunctions, then that purchase just goes straight down to the floor. So it's terrifying, especially when you've saved up for a long time for it. For me, specifically as a first-time flyer, the most terrifying thing to note was that it was going to shake in the wind, and that wind was going to be something that is inevitable in most flights. It's very rare that you're gonna run into a time where you're gonna get perfect shot and perfect weather all in one. For me, I had pretty perfect weather, but there was just a little bit of wind. But setting it higher and higher, the wind got stronger and stronger, and when I was looking up at it, it was scary to see it shaking. But that's just how drones are made to handle it. They're made to handle that kind of thing, and I've kind of had to learn that as I've kept flying it. You know, flashing forward to a few days ago when I was flying it, and I'll show you guys some of that footage later, is I was more confident in the wind, and it was way more windy, but my drone could handle it. And I had to learn that my drone can handle more than I think it can. What I learned is that there has to be a balance between keeping your drone safe, because of course that's important. If it's like 40-mile-an-hour wind, obviously don't fly if you can avoid it. But at the same time, there has to be a point where you have to realize that it was built to tank stuff like that. And there has to be a balance between learning what your drone can handle and what it can't handle. Let's run over some of the stuff that I'm sure you guys have heard if you've watched other review videos. And if you haven't, I would highly recommend watching some other ones as well, because they go into more of the schematics. But I want to talk about which of those kind of stuff were specifically great for me as a cinematographer. First of all, the obvious one, 4K at 60 frames per second. It is just so nice to be able to cut things down to half speed when I am flying and first of all learning and wanting to film in 4K. The D-Cinelike profile, amazing. I love the ability to be able to color grade in a more drastic way. And I just love having a color profile when it comes to filming anything, because it gives me more versatility. And I love that this drone does that. The 8K hyperlapse I really enjoyed using, but I haven't used it much. There's only one main one that I'll show you guys right now. This is the main hyperlapse that I did in 8K. I mean, it doesn't look great. I think to really test the 8K hyperlapse, I'm gonna have to go somewhere where there are clouds moving around mountains or something like that, so I can really understand the versatility. So I can't say I've tested the 8K hyperlapse a lot, but from what I have tested, it was very fun to use. The tracking is definitely the most exciting but also terrifying thing for me as a first-time flyer. It works very, very well, but I would recommend that if you're doing some auto tracking, that you are constantly watching and close to your drone. Every time I did tracking, it worked very well, but because there are no side sensors and there's only sensors on the bottom and on the front and the back, sometimes it'll be tracking and it'll start moving sideways, and that's when it can start colliding with things. So I would highly recommend that when you're doing tracking, that you are watching your drone, but I would highly recommend, especially as a first-time flyer, that you use it, because it is so amazing to use. I also love, although it's not like the Mavic 2 Pro from what I've seen where you have as much versatility with the f-stop and anything like that, I do like that I can change the ISO and the shutter speed in manual. That is very helpful, and especially because I got the Fly More combo, I got ND filters. Those have also helped vastly with the lack of control that I've lost by not being able to control the iris. Let's talk the sensor really quick. 1/2 inch seams, for me, when I was first buying it, I was thinking maybe it might not be enough, especially watching footage from the Mavic 2 Pro and other drones with 1-inch sensors. I thought that it might not be enough for me. But what I had to realize was, for a first drone, I don't need something amazing that's gonna get this cinematic quality that is in movies. It's great just as is. With a 1/2 inch sensor, I really don't think that I'm losing out on anything for the time being. As I start to upgrade and grow as a flyer, I think I'll definitely invest in getting a drone that has, for instance, an inch sensor. But for a first-time flyer and for what I do right now as a filmmaker, I think 1/2 inch is just perfect. Although I don't photograph as much as I film, I do take photos once in a while, and the 48 megapixel JPEG and the 12 megapixel RAW, incredible. I love that I'm able to edit the photos RAW, and that's amazing as is. The JPEGs look amazing in 48 megapixel even without any editing. This being my first drone in about the first week of flying, I definitely would say that my impressions are, I was super impressed. I still am impressed, and it's been about 2 weeks since I've had this purchase. But that first week, I didn't get a chance to test it to its fullest extent, but I did get to test a lot of its features, and I did do a lot of really cool stuff in my opinion. I was able to shoot a shot in my short film that you guys saw last week. I was able to shoot at my grandpa's property, which had a lot more range and ability to be able to fly around. I was able to fly out of the desert. I was able to fly in a lot of different places with moving subjects and with stable subjects. And my first impression is that for a first drone, it is perfect for what I needed. As I grow as a videographer, I think I may grow to make different purchases when it comes to my drone purchases, but as for now, for the foreseeable future, I think this is perfect for exactly what I do. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, or any other drones or anything like that. I've seen drones from other companies besides DJI. I've seen other Mavics, I've seen other DJI drones, and for what I do and from what I've seen from all these other drones, I think this is the exact purchase I needed to make. Before I end this video, I want to show you guys a cinematic video that I made from the footage I've gotten in the time that I've owned this drone up until now. I think a lot of review videos will show a lot of raw footage, which again is very important, but I think that it's also valuable if people push their editing and their flying to the fullest extent and then seeing what they get out of it, so you can really see the full potential of the product that they're showing off. So I'm going to show you the cinematic video, but first I want to talk about my crash. My first crash was not a small one at all. I had not crashed this drone at all in the first 2 weeks of owning it, and about 3 days ago, I went to film the final footage for this review video, and I set off my drone next to the river, and it got caught in a branch and fell straight into the river. Now the Rio Grande, which is the river that goes through the city I live in, is usually not very full with water, but the day I crashed it, it was pretty full. As soon as the drone went in, I went in with it. I did not care what I was wearing at all. I jumped in, I tried my best to save it. For about 30 seconds, I could not find it at all. I was starting to go down where the flow of the river was because I was afraid it had caught and it had started floating away. But my friend Andrew, which you guys all know him very well, you guys need to give him just the most love because he hopped in with me as well. We were both wearing full clothing, full shoes. He jumped in the river as well, felt for it right where he saw it go down, put his hand down in the river, pulled it out. Immediately I noted that the lights on the legs here were still flashing. So I saw that as a good sign. Immediately I removed the battery and I started shaking out all the water I could get out as fast as I could. It was covered in mud and water. Luckily, I was only about 5 minutes from my house, so I sped home and I put that thing in rice immediately. I left it in that rice for about 48 hours. After those 48 hours, I removed it from the rice, and here's a video of what I did afterwards. I will show you really quick what it's looking like right now. You know, right now, when it was up hanging out, it was fully submerged. Now it's kind of flattened out a little bit, but trust me, it was all fully submerged when I first put it in. Well, it's dirty. That's a fact. You know, it seems like it might work, maybe. There's rice everywhere. The battery. Time lapse. Okay, it seems clean to me, but I don't know. The people online were like, I cleaned it for 2 hours, and I don't know about that. I mean, I went pretty hard for 20 minutes, and it looks fine. The motors are now turning normally. The sensors are all clean. It looks on the inside like all of the vent shafts are completely clean. What else is there to do? Oh buddy, so much more than you could ever imagine. After that video, I went in to test the drone for the first time, and there was a bunch of errors. When I saw this, I knew that there was a deeper issue than I thought. I had to unscrew the bottom, and I had to completely deconstruct it, spraying out all of the dirt that had gotten in. I thought it was fine. I put it back together. I got a different error than the first time. So I took it apart even further Sprayed out more dirt, put it back together. I got a different error than the first and the second time. I took it apart even further to the point where all of the parts of the drone were completely all over the table. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of damage here on the top because of me prying this piece off, because I literally took this thing apart down to the bare bones, and I took that thing apart about 3 other times. Now, before I show you guys that cinematic video, I want to answer the final question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. Did my drone survive? Well, here are my Cash App and my Venmo. I just need you to know how many times I took this thing apart and put it back together. It was more times than I can count. Every time I would take it apart, there was a new problem. If you're really interested, I'll make a video on it. But for now, 3 days later, it's kind of scary still because I just put it back together, so there could be a random problem that I am not ready for, but oh, I fixed the drone. I'm just hoping for a new camera too. I'll see you with my eyes.